Hi. You got a second? Okay. Hey everyone, it's Fish Titan here, and it has been a while, so if you don't remember or if you're new around here, let me give you a little recap. Now, on the upload date of this video, it has been 2 years to the day since I started my longest personal record of starting and staying on hormone replacement therapy. I had tried medically and socially transitioning simultaneously a couple times before then in 2017 or so, but I kept stopping for obviously not positive reasons. Then on June 25th of 2020, when I was living with my mom and grandma in Los Angeles, California, I pulled up my big girl pants, came back to the doctor with my old letter from my college counselor, and I haven't looked back since. Well, I've only looked back once, but I think that was a fluke. Then on September 23rd of that year, I uploaded a simultaneous coming out and Q&A announcement video to my YouTube channel, and I did it all while looking like an improperly refried femboy. What are you doing? You're not supposed to hit the femboy button. You could have blown up the microwave. The final Q&A video would later be uploaded on October 25th of 2020, and then on my 1-year anniversary of starting hormone supplements, I made a 2-part video wherein I dipped my toes into the pool of pre-transition cringe content. And as wild as it may be to look back on yourself from before your egg cracked, being out as your actual gender for several months at a time can also really change you as a person, regardless of whether or not you're pursuing medical transition. So that's why for my 2-year anniversary, I figured I would look back on the Q&A that I uploaded in 2020, because I figured the next logical step after pre-transition cringe would be early transition cringe? Or maybe this video won't even be as cringy as my first few Q&As. I don't know. Let's find out together. This is the Fish Titan 64 Q&A Small Titty Goth GF edition, originally premiered on October 25th, 2020. Let's go.
Hello.
Okay, right off the bat, I do still think it was pretty clever for me to open this video by literally coming out of the closet. I should get some more strappy goth shit at some point. Ah, well. Maybe the makeup will help a bit. I don't know. Maybe the choker will help. Yeah, that might be femme enough. Maybe. I maybe could have made a wiser wardrobe choice here than this, like, baggy, boxy Walmart t-shirt, but, I mean, my
melons
weren't, like, fully in at this point anyway, so I don't know if it would have mattered.
Are there any modern-day YTPers that you would suggest? I don't really watch very many other people's stuff anymore, as much as I used to, but I would go with Da Things and Noise Puppet. What's your favorite movie of all time? For the longest time, it was a toss-up between Nightmare Before Christmas and The Emperor's New Groove.
Well, now my favorite movie of all time is Everything Everywhere All at Once. If not that, it is at least in the top 5.
You're still in the YTP area. I mean, what do you think of modern YTP collabs? I have not seen a contemporary YouTube poop collab since this Teletubbies one. I don't remember who hosted it, but it just felt like most of the people who submitted an entry had like a silent agreement to use all of the same jokes. Like there were a lot of Teletubbies running into each other and exploding, a lot of We Are Number One jokes, a lot of Super Mario Brothers theme song jokes.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a weird coincidence that most of the people in that Teletubbies collab were using a lot of the same types of jokes, but it's like, I don't know how much I can really blame the individual creators themselves for that, because, you know, some of them might have just been, like, starting out making YouTube poops for all I know, and when you're starting out making, like, any type of art, whatever you see first in that medium of art is going to be what you're most influenced by. Like, I know in my early days of doing stuff, I was very, very heavily influenced by, like, CS188 and Absolute Billion. I wasn't even, like, trying to hide it half the time. But then also, if you're running a YouTube poop collab, right, It is kind of your job to try to maintain a level of quality control throughout the whole thing to make sure it doesn't get too monotonous as like a final product. Because I know when I did my 14-year anniversary collab, I included like 2 out of 3 Megalovania jokes among all the entries.
What are some of your favorite punk albums? Subgenres included. Bad Religion, No Control, Green Day, Nimrod.
Oh, frickin', you know what else is a good Green Day album? Warning! Yeah, that's got some really underrated tracks on it. And Dookie, of course, but you know, that's one of the more popular ones.
Gimme Convenience or Gimme Death. Against Me, Transgender Dysphoria Blues. Typical trans girl answer there, but...
Okay, potentially cancelable Against Me take. The only album I really liked before Trans Dysphoria Blues was White Crosses. Every album that came up before White Crosses that I had tried to listen to, I was not the biggest fan of young Laura Jane Grace's voice, but also you can kind of start to see some of the inklings of the egg cracking if you look at the lyrics of some songs on White Crosses. I've also re-listened to Shapeshift with Me recently. It's grown on me a little bit, but not by too much. Stay Alive was a pretty good acoustic album, though.
What was the hardest YTP to make? Easily the Alice in Wonderland one. I started that one back in like September. I might have taken a little break from it, but I didn't really, finish it until earlier this month. And maybe it could have been a little easier if I had just edited it in a more linear fashion, because what I did was I did the project file and I tried executing the first few jokes I had in mind. So maybe if I had just started from the beginning, it would have been slightly easier. I mean, then again, I still would have had all the fucking layers and effects and shit.
Speaking of Al.
Speaking of Al, but yeah, that's one reason why I made my Sword in the Stone poop intentionally shorter than the Alice one, because even though I took pretty much the same approach to starting that one, the same kind of scattershot approach to laying jokes down and then organizing them all, I didn't want the video itself to be nearly as long as the Alice one. I wanted to make sure that every joke hit, and also I just kind of wanted to preserve some of my sanity during the editing process. I still kind of regret not doing anything with the Madam Mim scenes, but it is what it is. I already fucking finished the video.
I forgot to answer the questions about my profile picture. Obviously, it was foreshadowing for the Alice video since it was such a big project for me. And also, something might be happening on Halloween, if it's not canceled.
Yeah, I remember that costume. It was cute. Too bad that was one of my worst personal Halloweens on record.
What motivates you to create videos? I kept coming up with jokes while I was on my break from YouTube poop a few years ago. And what else do you like to do besides YTPing?
Wait, is it me or did I not directly answer the question? I don't know, I think back when I was still doing YouTube poops, it was obviously I really saw something in the format of taking an airing of a TV show or a movie or whatever and trying to inject some twisted sort of comedy into it, just making jokes out of the material itself. And then I guess just trying to apply that kind of formula to anything I watched that I felt I could make a YouTube poop out of is okay, what jokes can I get out of Alice in Wonderland, or The Sword in the Stone, or this particular episode of Blue's Clues? You know what I mean? Basically, it was all just what can I do here with this thing that's in front of me?
Favorite YTP creator from the past who no longer creates YTP content? I'm gonna go with Shroomhead1. He really was honestly kind of ahead of his time for 2010. Favorite one who still does? Again, I'm gonna go with Da Things, and that's not just because I've briefly interacted with her on social media.
Ellie, if you're watching this, I love your work, but I'm sorry if I've ever come off too much of a fangirl.
Blah. Congrats on the sex change. I'm just curious, when did you have it, since I'm just now finding this out? I'm not particularly concerned with getting the surgery.
And I still don't care about getting the surgery. I mean, I've flip-flopped on other types of surgeries that I may or may not want, But regardless, if you are cis and somebody discloses to you that they are trans, then you should not immediately assume that they want bottom surgery.
I did, however, start HRT on June 25th of this year, and I just recently upped my dosage of
Estradiol.
so, hopefully I was gonna get somewhere.
It certainly has gone somewhere.
Favorite type of music? I tend to like stuff that I think is, fairly catchy and well put together and sounds good, but isn't mainstream. I listen to a lot of doom metal or just riff-based type metal like Windhand, Sabbath, Ruby the Hatchet, System of a Down, OCs and King Gizzard, and Allsay and Mirker. And Chrome Ghost, forgot to mention Chrome Ghost. I will occasionally listen to other genres as well though, I feel like this year's been really good for African jazz, oddly enough, and a little bit of rap. Mainly really dark shit though, like Clipping and Backwash.
I mean, yeah, I'll definitely still listen to some of these bands and artists from time to time. Keyword being some, but we'll get there. Yeah, basically, my common thread is, I will listen to stuff that's dark or heavy and experimental to a degree, but not overly, noisy and dense. And I've definitely found a lot of other bands and artists to be obsessed with since recording this video.
How long did it take to make We Are Number One Steamed Hams?
Honestly, I never keep precise track of how long it takes me to work on a video. Straight up, I will get into a fugue state just working on these fucking things.
Instead of me obeying your orders, can you obey mine? Depends on what your orders are. I mean, I may be a bottom, but
That's a lie, I'm a switch. You're still kind of a bottom, honey.
What made you decide to be trans? I put decide in air quotes because, trans people don't really decide whether or not they are trans. It's just something you either are or aren't. The things that trans people can decide for themselves include, but are not limited to, when they want to come out, how exactly they want to express their gender identity. Me personally, my memory is very fuzzy on my childhood in general, but I remember, being a teenager and, looking at my in the shower and thinking, it looks weird or whatever.
I mean, I feel like bringing up that example in this context might have made it sound like I experienced bottom dysphoria, when really, I think that particular example was just me thinking that my pickle looked weird in comparison to those I had seen of cis dudes in professionally produced heteronormative porn, which is definitely, shitty conditioning to have, and I'm sure for some people it could work in conjunction with bottom dysphoria, but it's not necessarily the same thing as wishing you didn't have a certain type of genital configuration in the first place. Obviously, like I said in the captions here, I've particularly grown to like what I have going on, but I never even considered the option of bottom surgery until after I had started transitioning. So, okay, I think I can go in here without anybody noticing. And if someone does notice next time, I'm just gonna have to be quicker on the draw. Anyway.
Also, the other incident I remember was being 13, I think, and my mom and I went to some doctor appointment. I think it was for diagnosing me for autism, actually. That's another thing about me, mildly autistic. Woo. We were sitting in the
Doctor's office.
Okay.
We were talking about something, I don't remember what, and then I remember bringing up to her that I wanted to shave my legs, to which she replied that only girls shave their legs. I just didn't really learn about trans people like that until I started using Tumblr in high school. And even then, I think it was a very, narrow, probably cis-normative view. So at first I was probably oh, well, they exist, that's cool, couldn't be me though. But then, in my second semester of college, I started cross-dressing more often, and finding out that there is, in fact, more than one way to be trans, so...
I forgot to mention that this was after the cringy blue costume that I exhibited in one of my earlier Q&As. That was in 11th grade.
Also, another egg moment I do remember is, like, listening to the song Bury It by Churches and just kind of randomly imagining myself just, like, strutting down the sidewalk like a bad bitch dressed in an outfit. Kind of similar to the stuff that Lauren Mayberry was wearing during the time of that album cycle, like, right down to the fucking black docks and everything.
Out of all the tennis matches you have done over the past several years of your life, which ones stood out to you the most, and which ones do you wish you could have improved upon? I think the ones that have stood out to me the most were both of the ones I did with Mountain Dew Man, and the one I did with you, honestly. At least a couple of ones I wish I could have improved upon were both of the ones I did with Super Chops, because, again, that's where some of my old slur-based humor manifested.
And where some of Super Chops' older humor manifested as well, because apparently his rounds in the tennis are no longer available on his channel, as my friend Vinny has brought to my attention. But they are on archive.org, so it counts for something, I guess.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Right there.
Dude, fuck Kevin. Gordon Ramsay should have been the host of the UK Blues Clues.
Is mayonnaise
An instrument?
It's a better instrument than it is an ice cream flavor, I'll say that much. PS5 or Xbox Series X? Neither. I don't play video games that often, and when I do, it's usually Final Fantasy XI with my partner.
Yeah, obviously that part of the video did not age particularly well. I have not come back to Final Fantasy ever since we broke up, so I will play Audio Surf and Super Mario The Lost Levels as kind of like half comfort games, half games just to play for the sake of like keeping my brain active. But like, that is about it.
Are you into sports? No!
I do still love the delivery on that line in particular. That was like perfectly sassy. And it's actually just true. Like, I might have played like ping pong at one point, and I would just like practice throwing a basketball into a hoop at recess because I didn't want to actually freaking talk to anyone. But other than that, I had just never given a shit about sports even before I realized that I was too gay to function.
Thoughts on bronies, simps, and VTube? I mean, the bronies were mostly okay until all of the giant...
All of the fucking, yes.
As far as my understanding of simps goes, didn't it start out to refer to men who tried desperately to get the attention of some girl who's well out of their league?
I don't remember if I bring this up in the actual video, but nowadays from what I've seen, it's usually like male superfans of like female content creators who will pay fucking exorbitant amounts of money to support them. I can on the one hand see how that can be a problem once it gets like toxically parasocial, but I feel like most of the criticism just comes from men who go out of their way to not support sex workers.
But now it seems to have morphed into a blanket term for any guy doing anything nice for a woman, and I don't agree with that. I don't know, can we fucking let guys be soft and mushy and romantic?
I feel like we do give men a little more leeway these days to express themselves more like romantically, mainly because, like, how many fucking posts have you seen from women complaining about how freaking low the bar is in order for men to treat them like human beings? It's a thing.
VTube, the Japanese virtual stuff is okay, I guess.
Yeah, until you try to base a fucking rap career around it.
Who is the sassiest person you can think of?
Me.
Nick DeRamio, whose channel I just found recently, and he is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I still enjoy Nick's content to this day. He's even helped me realize some things about myself.
As a fellow trans girl, I was wondering if you have any tips on how to deal with gender dysphoria in any way.
Just do what I do when I have problems.
Drink a lot of beer and smoke a lot of cigarettes. Works for me!
That was a joke, obviously. If you are addicted to any type of substance and you want to quit, please try to be stronger about it than I have historically been. I said at the beginning of this year that I was gonna quit drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes, but I have, unfortunately not been successful. I have not recently been at a good enough point mentally to where I feel like I can really do much of anything else to relieve my stress and anxiety. God, I wish I had kept up the energy for doing my girl voice at work today. Maybe I'll schedule another session this week. Maybe I will in the future, but I just don't see that being anytime super soon. If you're a trans girl who's just starting out taking hormone pills, that would be a good time to quit smoking, since my doctor has told me time and fucking time again that I'm not technically supposed to smoke while taking the pills.
I don't know what your quarantining situation might be like, if you have any, access to femme clothes or whatever. But if you do, maybe just have a dress update. I personally remember, over the past few months, whenever I'd be, sitting in my room, and I would be feeling particularly dysphoric about not looking feminine enough, and I would be, comparing myself to other girls and stuff. I would literally just walk over to my closet, find the most femme shit that I had out that wasn't, in the laundry, pull together a little impromptu outfit, and just wear that for however much of the rest of the day I wanted to.
I've also found that if you are feeling dysphoric about something about yourself that you might perceive to be more manly or whatever, oh, I don't like the bridge of my nose or how wide my neck is, or even just stuff like all this hair getting blown into my face by the wind is really annoying, then just thinking it's very womanly of me to get upset about that. I can't take full credit for that method, unfortunately. I don't remember who said it exactly.
I wonder what's for dinner.
You bitch!
Okay, so I keep making System of a Down references in this video, but honestly my relationship with System of a Down has gotten a lot more complicated in the past 2 years. My second to last ex kept shit-talking their politics a fair amount. That was a little weird for me to hear and think about since I was still a fan at the time, even though the drummer has objectively wrong politics, but then I had a whole incident with one of my friends that kind of ruined the song Violent Pornography for me in particular, and it doesn't help that fucking Surge has also dropped an NFT. Also, they may be few and far in between, but nobody ever really talks about the few times where System have had some interesting word choices in their lyrics. Does that all make this particular video a little harder to watch? Only a little bit, in that it's just weird for me to remember a time when I was so fucking obsessed with this band that I would just shoehorn it into every other video I was making at the time, even though that's kind of how I signal a lot of my newest musical obsessions anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, with System, I still can't really hate on most of the music, except when I can.
What are you doing?
So, yeah, I'll still listen to some songs from System of a Down if I'm in a certain mood, but the flame of obsession has pretty much died out.
What is the weirdest song you have ever heard? I think most of the songs off of Trout Mask Replica would be a good candidate. As someone who used to be a fan of these guys in high school, a lot of Death Grips' later work...
Oh, you used to be a Death Grips fan, did ya? Mm-hmm. Sure thing, sweetie.
A lot of Death Grips' later work, it's just...
I'm not even gonna lie, that is still one of my least favorite songs from Death Grips. I mean, for what it's worth, I do think that album still has a lot of bangers on it, as does Year of the Snitch, for that matter. I just don't think those albums are quite as, thoroughly enjoyable from front to back as The Money Store, or No Love Deep Web, or even Government Plates.
As for the weirdest song I've ever heard that I actually enjoy listening to, I am gonna go with
Born Under Punches
by Talking Heads. And a lot of They Might Be Giants' early work, too, honestly.
Now I'm having another moment like I did in the last React video where just on the fucking spot, I tried to think of a newer candidate for the answer to that question. I can tell you one thing, the weirdest song I've heard that I don't like is literally everything I've heard from 100 Gex. Nope, scratch that. That's not entirely fair, because after filming this video, I had heard another Captain Beefheart album besides Trout Mask Replica, and honestly, those guys are still gonna have to take the cake. Seriously, what the fuck is this? Weirdest song I've heard that I actually do like, going back to it, like, most of the stuff off of You're the Snitch would be a good candidate. Fucking Death Grips is Online, Flies, Black Paint, Dilemma, Disappointed. Bruh.
Will you do another YTP collab? I mean, if you actually remember the Legend of Zelda collab that I tried to initiate a million years ago, that's why I'm not gonna do another one. Sorry.
Just you fucking wait, honey. You'll get just famous enough to where the next collab you try to host will be a success, don't worry.
Can I sub twice?
I wouldn't recommend it, I am cringe, but if you do,
Which of your videos, if any, would you consider your go-to for introducing people to the things you do online? Maybe either the Fresh Prince one or Steve steals his mom's last cigarette. Although I have introduced people with Steve collectivizes the production of notebooks.
I mean, yeah, obviously one of my Blue's Clues ones, although I don't feel like the bedtime one is, like, my best Blue's Clues poop. I have also introduced people to my work with the SpongeBob ones, because even though those two are, like, getting really popular to the point where I'm honestly starting to get fucking sick of them, I do feel like they're probably popular for a reason, because, you know, they're good. I mean, the Halloween one, I kind of feel like I was starting to run out of steam with the fucking hash-slinging slasher episode, but the one about the paper, I feel like maintains a pretty consistent quality throughout.
How old are you? 22. What are your main influences for making YTPs? Chemistry Guy, Absolute Billion, CS188, even though some of his older stuff is problematic, but I think he's doing better now. And to a certain extent, the Monty Python cartoons, just the fucking surrealist nature of those.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about stuff that's problematic.
Oh, shut me, just like my dear mama.
Do you still like bagels in your socks? I know you like bagels in your socks and hate bear claws in your gloves, but do you like French crullers in your shoes? That's so 2013. Everyone knows the new thing is English muffins in your boots. Go with the fucking times, bro.
Honestly, I don't know what we were thinking with putting English muffins in our boots. I mean, some of us probably knew that our feet were just gonna crush the English muffins. But did we know any better in the moment? No. If anything, I've grown to prefer croissants in my bras.
Since you've dropped some hella singles, what can I expect in the Fish Titan 64 meal at McDonald's, and what sort of merch will your collab feature? Okay, it's gonna be there's one beef patty, one fish patty. It comes with a light drizzling of BBQ sauce, no cheese. You're gonna have to ask for the cheese if you want it. The merch will consist of a t-shirt that's tie-dyed in the trans flag colors with trans rights on the front in tiny little embroidery.
I mean, I would wear that shirt. But do I even have to explain why this bit aged badly? We all remember what happened last year at Astroworld, right? I mean, I don't think any of us, saw it coming until it actually happened, so I'm just as much at fault for, answering this question as the person is for asking it. Or, rather, I didn't see it coming because it wasn't until after the Astroworld incident that I learned that Travis Scott does in fact have a history of encouraging crowd violence at his shows and on his Instagram page. So, sorry, I'm a clown, honk honk, fuck Travis Scott. Anyway.
And a giant body pillow of a pickle.
Get it? Because I'm a trans girl, and us trans girls love our pickles. Honestly, ladies, I feel like we need some new jokes. There's the pickles, Monster Energy, Die Highs, Fallout New Vegas, coding, producing electronic music, and aside from a few I may be forgetting, what else really is there. I don't know. I might just be an old jaded bitch who's trying to, like, actually come up with a personality, like, outside of my queer identity. But I remember I was trying really hard to, like, intentionally lean into the trans femme jokes in this era of my videos. And it's like, it's kind of funny for, like, a while if you're in the early stages of your transition. Nah, not really. Like my friend Chuck said, internal trans stereotypes are still stereotypes. If you do like wearing cat ears and eating pickles, that's fine, but just know that not every trans girl does.
Where do you see the future of your artistic output heading towards, whatever that may be? I felt for a while like I needed to do something to really wow my viewers in terms of my editing style, I suppose. I'm not sure what that would be. I think the Alice one definitely wowed some people in terms of the sheer ambition.
Yeah, I try, but I really don't know how well my laptop can handle more intensive editing. That's honestly been a big factor as to why I might not always go for, like, super fucking trippy effects, because sometimes my laptop can barely fucking handle editing a poop as is.
How has life been? Honestly, I have been suffering for a whole ass year. Like, well before 2020 even came into being. But at the time of recording this, I did recently move out of a borderline abusive situation, and I am temporarily living with my partner in a different part of California than I previously was.
There were a lot of things I could have done better in both living situations. Well, in both the parts of California that I was living in throughout 2020, and back when I was briefly living in Minnesota, but it really seemed for a while like I had just been a magnet to live with, like, kinda toxic assholes. I am working on patching things up with my second to last ex, and I still have, like, one friend from Minnesota that I still talk with regularly. I think a lot of it was just kind of like wrong place, wrong time kind of stuff. I mean, you can still, like, learn a lot about yourself in situations like that, but it's just like, honestly, I don't even know if it would be worth turning back time to try to do things better, you know?
When watching other people's videos, what sort of thing do you prefer? I guess the thing I value above all is consistency. Like, if it can, like, consistently keep my attention and consistently be, like, the same level of funny from beginning to end. Of course, like I said before, if you're gonna do the fucking edgy comedy, make sure it's actually clever.
Okay, one thing I will say. If I were making this video now, I wouldn't have used the word edgy in that context, because now I just, like, associate it with people who are just being actually offensive. But, I'm sure y'all know what I mean. Like, I'm obviously no stranger to off-color humor, but you grow and you learn about certain societal lines that still don't need to be crossed.
What's the best advice you've ever received? Make sure you have a buffer amount of money for your bank account so that when they inevitably take money out.
Like Alice said, I give myself very good advice, but I very seldom follow it.
Who are your favorite YouTubers, aside from the ones I mentioned earlier? Kenny JD, Caitlin Doughty, Maggie Mae Fish, Lindsay Ellis, Philosophy Tube.
Interesting picture to use there in hindsight, Izzy. I liked Philosophy Tube before she came out, and after she came out, because I'm gay.
Don't you think it's something special that there's so many YTPers identifying with LGBTQ+? Yes, but it really just goes to show that we really are everywhere, even places you might not expect, and we deserve as much love and respect as everyone else does, regardless of who we love, regardless of if we present as one gender the whole way through our careers, or if we present as one gender and then switch to another with little to no clues.
Oh, she said the thing! Did somebody say ham-fisted segue?
Did somebody say upside down?
Hey, Blue.
Aw, Steve really glowed up after being on estrogen for 2 years. Good for her.
Thoughts on the Blue's Clues reboot, Blue's Clues and You? You know, after having some time to sit with it, it's fine as far as reboots go. Like, it's hard to, like, really screw up the concept of the original show, and, you know, they do follow it well. But honestly, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but the thing that kind of pissed me off initially about the reboot, at least in the first season, was how they were, like, just recreating episodes they had already done with Steve, like, beat for fucking beat.
It's funny, they started out recreating earlier episodes from the OG series. Then they tried putting more original spins on some of those concepts from the OG series, and now they're just kind of running low on steam for completely original episode concepts.
Josh's treasure hunt episode has more of a pirate angle than Steve's treasure hunt episode, but in that first season it did feel kind of egregious, just like, you know, what does Josh really add to, say, Magenta Comes Over, that the original episode didn't already have.
Side note, this is legitimately one of the best beats I've ever made in my entire time using FL Studio.
And can we talk about Josh real quick? Wow! He is such a tryhard, I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, Josh has definitely kept a very consistently animated performance throughout his entire time on Blue's Clues and You. He's, like, all the way on all the time, which is obviously not the type of performance I prefer in comparison with Steve or even Joe, honestly. But Josh Dela Cruz is still a successful Filipino-American man who's brought a lot of representation to contemporary kids media. Even if you don't like the reboot as much as the OG show, that is one thing you can't deny about it.
Also, Blue's new design is perfectly fine. Bars.
I mean, unless you give her the fucking pink undersides on her ears. I'm glad that idea was scrapped for the final cut. Or humanoid teeth. Also, fun fact about that particular Blue doll, my mom bought that for me from one of her giant Walmart trips. That's the other thing about Blue's Clues and You back when it was still, like, relatively new. It took me a while to, like, get used to seeing Blue's Clues merch in stores again within my lifetime. I mean, Blue's new design may be perfectly fine, but y'all know where my heart still lies.
I want to know where to download Blue's Clues episodes so I can make those kinds of YTPs. Can you tell me where to download them? For the longest time, I would just get my episodes from Kiss Cartoon, but I recently found out that someone named Mr. Thomas Fan 1 has uploaded high-quality, watermark-free versions of the first 3 seasons to archive.org.
I checked, those archive.org links no longer exist.
Hi.
God, I want to be a good girlfriend. I wish I'd been a fucking better girlfriend. I miss her cuddles and words of encouragement. Fucking...
Look like Steve and the Big Titty Goth GF. Have a baby.
Do you think Steve Burns could actually pull some goth pussy if he wanted to? I think he could. I mean, he was dangerously close to getting that Playboy pussy once.
Sing that song about the mail.
Steve Burns? More like Steve Fucks, am I right?
What is your best or favorite Blue's Clues video? Honestly, I gotta say Steve collectivizes the production of notebooks. Get off my bagel! Jesus.
Yeah, you don't fuck with my bagels.
So, yeah. Thanks, Dad.
An incident that I remember more vividly is being in some babysitting group.
Bruh, you're really not gonna put any more interesting visuals on the screen during the... Whatever. Like, if y'all have seen the video already, you probably know where the story goes. I love Blue's Clues, always have, always will. Don't think there's much else I need to say on the subject, so... Hang on a second.
Hello!
Hi, Mr. Rosen.
Please, call me Michael.
Well, if I may ask, why are you calling me Michael? I'm kind of in the middle of something.
Actually, I wanted to say... I'm sorry for telling you off about the Blue's Clues all those years ago.
Oh.
That wasn't very nice.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You like what do you like, and you do. You... No big deal.
I mean, yeah, I know that now, but, I appreciate that you're willing to own up to your mistakes and offer closure, so, thanks.
Don't worry about it. Now, are we cool?
Yeah, we're cool.
Fantastic. Oh, by the way, I think it looked rather nice.
Oh, thanks.
Anyway, I had to get to Hemel Hempstead.
All right, you have a good day.
Good. Bye.
Bye. Well, that was nice. No, where was I?
You watch Blue's Clues a minute!
Ah, yes. Anyway.
I mean, I remember Chemistry Guy saying there's not really such thing as going overboard with a source, but I guess I wish somebody had more directly told me, hey, it's okay for you to like childish things. Everyone else in your generation is gonna be simping for Disney movies once you get into college anyway.
Stop lying to yourself!
I mean, yeah, lots of my friends still quote, like, SpongeBob and other cartoons and stuff, regardless of whether or not they're in any of my online friend groups who are into, like, different fandoms. I will say, though, just because you are in a fandom based around a children's show does not give you carte blanche for the way you behave online.
What inspired the choice to focus a lot on Blue's Clues as a source for YTP? You know, obviously, I liked the show a lot back then, and I still do, if I'm being honest. But also, I remember when people would upload mirrored episodes of the show to YouTube. Y'all remember that? When they would literally just take, like, you know, the noggin rips of certain episodes from the first couple seasons or whatever, put them into Movie Maker, and they just, like, horizontally flip them. So yeah, finding more access to episodes online, and also, I guess I just kind of used that as an excuse to keep practicing Vegas. I remember I specifically made Steve Discovers a New Disease after discovering that I could, like, keyframe effects, and boy does it show.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely true for that specific video, but even though that's not my favorite out of my classic videos, I don't think that's inherently, like, a bad thing, like, conceptually. You know, you learn certain different things about your craft at various points of practicing it, and at least when I'm looking at, like, other people's content on YouTube, it's kind of interesting for me to pinpoint the certain parts where they, like, got really good at video editing. I just feel like it, like, kind of naturally comes with the territory of making and posting videos online. Everybody has their little eras, you know.
So, that's the video. Thank you guys for submitting your questions, sticking around with this channel as long as you have, and especially thanks to those of you who were, you know, understanding and accepting of me.
So, this is like my fourth fucking time trying to film an outro for this video because I had originally written a more concisely worded ending monologue, but then, oops, my feelings changed. First and foremost, though, I do not regret being queer or gender nonconforming, or even pursuing physical feminization. What I do regret are all of the choices that I've made out of fear, out of spite, out of self-loathing, out of hubris. I regret allowing myself to crumble under the weight of my social dysphoria, or the weight associated with simply existing as a trans person. When I first decided to transition all those years ago back in college after I started doing Femboy Fridays, it wasn't necessarily a life or death situation for me like it is for a lot of trans people. I saw it as more of an opportunity to run towards something, to really lean into something that made me feel good. And I think there is certainly some merit in that approach to transing your gender, as it were. But for me personally, the more time went on, the harder I tried to pass as a woman, the more doubts I was having about my validity as a woman or what my gender identity even is, the more it just felt like I was ultimately running away from something. And really, there's no point in swapping out one mental prison for another. Now, at this point in an earlier cut of the video, this is where I would have come out as a more general form of non-binary, and I do think I am a little more genderqueer than I might have liked to admit at previous points in my life, but god fucking damn it, I do still really like being a girl. I just think I had kept losing sight of what made me feel good to experiment with my gender in the first place because of all of the doubts that I kept having. There was a lot of stuff that I was letting get to my head, whether it be interpersonal arguments or external influences. Like, make no mistake, gender transition may not work for everybody, but it does work for a lot of people. It's just not as glamorous or as cut and dry as the before and after pictures might lead you to believe. It's fucking weird, and messy and complicated and oftentimes depressing. If you're gonna do it, the least you can do is just not give a fuck about what other people think about you, which is easier said than done, but if you truly get so much joy out of being a girl that you want to just become a girl, the option is always there. Now, as for what's going to happen to my channel in the future, I will be leaving it up for archival purposes, but this is pretty much my last hurrah. I had already established that my Upside Down Show video was going to be my last poop, and I have a lot of reasons for leaving YouTube poop, but rather than dwell on them, I just want to, one more time, thank all of my subscribers, viewers, supporters, and closest friends for getting me through these past few years. I'll never forget you guys. Ever.
Oh, friend, I'm losing my mind. Watching the days burn into years. Watching the years burn dry. Please stay.